So Josh, thank you so much for joining me today, man. I know you're a busy dude. You're running a YouTube channel and you're also a full-time farmer. How does that work?
So this has been a struggle, Cody, for my entire existence in this double career, I guess. I run a small vegetable farm. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I sell to local restaurants. And you know, it's both of them are part-time or both of them are full-time, however you want to look at it. So yeah, that's what I do. And then I have two YouTube channels. One is about farming, and that's coming up on 3 years old. And so as I started that channel, that took away a lot of time from my farming. So I have to split my time between all those things. But yeah, that's what I do, man.
And I've recently have come to learn that you also have a third job, and that's a father. You are a father to two twins, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm married for 15 years, and I have two twin boys that are 11. So yeah, I do a lot of the stuff, around the house in terms of shopping and cooking and stuff. My wife's a nurse, so she's at the hospital a lot, and so I'm doing a lot of stuff at home too, which makes sense because I'm at home all the time.
So when you and I met, you had told me that you and your wife traveled the country, and I think that's something that we shared in common. You traveled the country, right? Doing campgrounds or something?
Yeah, wow, no one's asked me about this in a long time, Cody. I'm surprised you even remember that, but I guess because you do a lot of traveling too. Yeah, we did this in 2006. We took a almost 12,000-mile road trip. It was the summer before we got married. Yeah, so we only had one hotel room the whole time, which was in Las Vegas. And I didn't really even want to go to Vegas, but it was like we were driving through there. I'd never been, so we did one night there. But everything else was like car camping and staying with friends and family, and really saw the country. Basically went to every national park we could possibly go to. And it was fantastic. We do really like road tripping, and I've traveled on Europe. Even this was in 2001, so I was much younger, and now had the opportunity to travel to the U.S. And we've done other road trips since, but that one was the big one, and realized how amazing our country is. It's just, oh man, it's just incredible.
It is, man. Now, were you a farmer, or at least practicing farming techniques before you traveled, or was this something that came later?
No, farming's only been in the last 4 years. So after,
Wow.
Yeah. So I grew up in Boston, so really urban, like streetcars, like, really urban situation. So that trip, this was after grad school. I taught high school math for 5 years, and we were living in Colorado. So that's where we left from. That was, what was going on then. But after teaching, I became a brewer. I brewed beer professionally for 5 or 6 years, and then fell into farming after that. So there's been I've done a lot of different things.
Wow. So you've been farming for 4 years.
Yes.
And you started a farming YouTube channel, and you are currently at 116,000 subscribers?
186, I believe.
186,000 subscribers on YouTube in 4 years. You learned a skill and you taught it on YouTube. And if I remember correctly, you're still in the city, right?
I'm in the suburbs, so we have a 2-acre lot. Yeah.
That's impressive, man. If you could break down 5 tips on starting a YouTube channel, what would tip number 1 be?
All right, I don't know if I can break it up into 5 things, but I can definitely talk forever about YouTube because I live and breathe this. It's been part of what I do every day for the last almost 3 years. And I think I can talk about my journey a little bit too, in that when I started the YouTube channel, I didn't really have the intention of growing a YouTube channel to any reasonable size. Like, this was not on the radar for me. But when I started my farm, I was really active on Instagram and learning how to grow an audience there, because I was using that for marketing because I needed customers. So I was like, all right, I'm going to try to grow that. And then I started realizing, people are asking me a lot of questions about what I'm doing on the farm, because I was like sharing my story. I was always like, we're growing this, we're harvesting this. And so people started asking technical questions, and I started making short videos, because then it was 59-second videos on Instagram. This was like 4 years ago. So
yeah,
I was trying to cram information in 59 seconds, and people were like, can we get more information? And I kind of got like my arm twisted into starting YouTube. So that's how YouTube started for me. And I had a very weird journey, because I had a viral video about 2 months after starting the channel, which I know is not common. And so that kind of launched the channel, and then, obviously getting monetized, and maybe I should pay a little bit more attention to this. There's some money here and people are interested in what I'm doing. So I think in terms of your question about tips for starting YouTube, I think the biggest thing is you got to pick something that you're just extremely passionate about. Like, because the audience can always tell when you're not into it. Even if you're like 80% into it in a video, they'll sniff it out like right away. And so I think whatever you're super passionate about is what you should be making content on. And you don't have to be an expert. Like, that's the thing I think a lot of people realize, like, oh, I don't know that much. It's like, we all have imposter syndrome at some point or all the time, depending on who you are. And it's important to just, you can admit when you don't know something, or you can admit when you do something wrong. I think a lot of people do like seeing when, people fail. Not that it's like they want to see negative on someone else, but, there's always a learning experience there. So, it's easy to say, like, I'm not an expert in this, but like if someone asks you a question, figure out the answer or point them in the direction of something or someone that can help them. So I think the biggest thing is, do something you're passionate about. I think it's important to be honest and authentic. I think a lot of people are going to be more focused on authenticity in moving forwards because, I think people want to trust people. People want to connect with that person. And I think there's a lot of people that they put on a personality while they're on camera that's kind of different from who they are. And I think the authenticity is absolutely huge. I think the videography side of everything, Cody, is like the least important side of YouTube. I think I see channels growing to massive sizes and they're shooting on like phones or very inexpensive cameras. And I think a lot of people think that you have to have this camera, you have to have this gear, you have to stop all that, like focus on the content. And I mean, I look back on my first 15 videos, I think I shot on a phone, and I watched them and like, the video quality is garbage, but like the delivery, the content, the like value that you provide people is there. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, should I remake those? And I'm like, no, the information's good. So those are some of the main things. I mean, there's a lot of nitty gritty and the day-to-day stuff with YouTube, but I think those are the big things to think about.
Yeah, man, you hit on a lot of good points there, man. Starting with, of course, what you're passionate about, right? And you also need purpose as well too when you're starting something, because passion will dwindle over time once it becomes a full-time career. So you also I would suggest that you need purpose as well too. Do you agree?
In what sense?
So you grew the channel to 186,000 subscribers over the last 4 years. And do you think that's something that you're passionate about when doing YouTube full time, or do you have a purpose behind why you're doing it?
Okay, I understand your question. Yeah, so I am not like a lot of other creators on YouTube or just on social media in general. I think there's basically two types of creators out there. There's the content creators that are sort of more artists. They're more like, I just make the videos I want to make and don't worry about the algorithm and the monetization, all that stuff. And then you have the creators on the other side that are just literally focused and doing whatever they can to grow views, to be on different kinds of social media. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube, they're doing everything, Twitter, right? They're just like, they're hitting all the different methods because they just want to grow their audience as big as possible, as quickly as possible. Now, I think that in general, there's kind of two camps there, and everyone kind of falls somewhere in between those two extremes. But I'm much closer to the side that's like, I don't really worry about that stuff as much. And so because of that, I think my channel has not grown as large as it could have been. Now, I think if I had really stuck to all the YouTube rules, right, all the things that we know that can help you grow your channel, I think I probably have twice as many subscribers at this point over the last 3 years. But that's not my purpose or my goal here. My goal is to provide help for and education for people to help them grow more good food. And so that's really the purpose behind the channel, is teaching people how to grow more good food, helping people grow their homesteads, their gardens, and their farms. And so I don't really focus all the time on, clickbait titles and thumbnails and, all the things you can do to sort of drive views to your channel. Just trying to be real and authentic and I just try to provide value for the viewers.
Right. And I can verify those credentials too, man, because when we first met and you started to tell me more about yourself and what you're doing, coming from a business mindset, running a video production company, I was suggesting, have you tried maybe creating a course and selling this course, because what you're telling me is valuable? And you're like, no, I just want to give it away for free. And I think that speaks volumes to what you're doing on YouTube, man. And yeah, you just want to provide education to people. And it looks like you're looking out for the best interests of these people. So
yeah,
now that you've grown your channel, right, and you have a purpose behind it, and if someone else wants to get started with YouTube, how can I communicate to an audience? What if they're not good at communicating to an audience?
It takes practice. Like talking to a camera is not easy for anybody. It's more natural for some people than others, but talking to a camera is not inherently natural. Like you can't admit that like holding a camera with no one around and just talking, it feels weird. And learning how to structure your videos and keep people's interest and make sure you're communicating well takes a lot of practice, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So once they dial in communicating, like how do they come up with topics?
Yeah, this is the hardest thing. Like coming up with what to talk about I think is one of the biggest challenges for me, especially if I've been doing it for a long time, because depending on your channel, right? If you're a tech channel, you're going to be reviewing tech that comes out. Like that's obviously there's a cycle there, right? If you are like a farming channel, for me, like there's seasons, there's, things that are coming and going. At this point now, my farm is very dialed in, but it's not there's not that much changing, but there's projects. There's always like things you're working on and discussing or people request. So yeah, coming up with ideas is always tricky, Cody.
Okay. Now, when you come up with tips for your videos, is that because you're maybe answering a question in the comments of your videos or someone else's, or maybe it's just an idea that you had?
Yeah, so on my farming channel, I kind of have 3 different kinds of videos that I make. So I make sort of really straightforward instructional content where it's like, here's how I start new beds on my farm, like new garden beds on my farm. And I'll make a video and I'll outline it. It'll be very structured. It'll be more like a lecture or like a lesson. Then I'll do these like mini documentaries that I go to other farms and I interview other farmers and showcase their farms and stuff. So that's like a whole nother style of video that I like to do. And then there's also sort of more vlog-like content where it's like, I just grab the camera and whatever I'm doing that day, I'll show you. And maybe I'll have a theme of something I want to talk about during that time. And I can get that point across in 8 or 10 minutes or whatever. So for me, there's multiple different kinds of videos that I make on that channel.
Now, I noticed that you started a second YouTube channel. Was that to keep the information that you want to share with people separate from your channel?
So yeah, the second channel is called Content on Content, and it's really about content creation, videography, and filmmaking and camera gear and all that kind of stuff. Because I know there's so many channels out there on the topic, but for me, I became super passionate about the video side of it, and I'm obviously still farming, and I'm sharing that experience with everybody, but for me, I fell in love with cameras and shooting video and making short films and stuff. And so I have no training in this whatsoever. Like totally self-taught, and, I don't have a video production company. Like I just make videos for YouTube. And so I think there's a lot of people out there that have something to offer the YouTube community, have something to offer in terms of something they're good at, something they're passionate about. And that's kind of the angle I come from is, how can I help people become better teachers, essentially? Because, I'm an educator at heart. So for me, I can help other people teach better. Like that's pretty powerful. And I guess it goes back to your purpose question.
Yeah, most certainly, man. And I love that too. And I've recently discovered that actually this year, that teaching satisfies a part of the soul that, and teaching someone and seeing results and seeing fruit there. That satisfies a part of the soul that not a lot of other things can. I've seen that because I've been able to accomplish mostly everything that I've wanted to in life. And I felt empty for a little bit until I started teaching people. That's why I do YouTube personally, just to give away as much as possible. And I'm always thinking about it too when I'm doing it. Like Josh just keeps telling me to give it away for free, so I'm going to.
Yeah, there's kind of 2 mindsets in life that I find. There's the scarcity mindset and the abundance mindset. And if you haven't heard this comparison before, scarcity mindset is kind of, in a lot of ways, I think of it as like an old school mindset in business where you're going to like not share your information with anybody because that person might become a competitor and take away from your business. And so I've always felt that, or doesn't have to be business. It could be money or food or time or whatever like you have, and not give any of that away. But the opposite of that is the abundance mindset, where you share, you give, you don't worry about specific transactions because you're just trying to make things better for people, and eventually things come back your way. And I try to look through that lens as much as possible. And I know I've talked to plenty of business owners. They're like, I'm not sharing this information with anybody. And I'm like, they're not going to be a competitor, you know, like even if you tell someone how to do something, they're not going to do it the same way that you do it. So I don't stress about that stuff.
Yeah. I call it the giver's gain mindset. And you give with the intention on never receiving anything back. However, the way that things work, you always get your investment back tenfold. Even if it's a year or 2 or 3 years down the road, whenever you just give hilariously to somebody, it seems like you always get your investment back. And that's one of the things that we could talk about for how I've been able to scale the production company so fast. But you're spot on, man. Spot on.
So yeah, that's why I like to just give everything away information wise. And I know a lot of people, you know, start YouTube for like financial gain. So they're looking for sponsorships, they're looking for ad revenue, and eventually maybe selling products, right? And so the progression for like a lot of people in my little niche is like, okay, well, you do this for a while, you build up your audience, people know who you are, then you sell them something. You sell them a book, you sell them a course, you sell them, you know what I mean? And so for me, I'm just like, I'm just gonna put it on YouTube. But that's not a standard strategy out there for sure.
Right. So now that people have made the commitment to start a YouTube channel, they're communicating better, and they've picked their topics, they've learned how to do all that stuff. How many subscribers does it take to start making money on YouTube?
So this varies so much depending on different niches, but in general, just to start the AdSense program, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. So for example, on my smaller channel, which I just recently started, like I'm not monetized yet at the time of recording this. I'm close, and I'm curious to see what the CTR, or like how much they're going to pay per 1,000 views, is going to be with those types of videos. So I'm not really sure yet. But in terms of sponsorships and brand deals and all that kind of stuff, it comes with time. And, you know, for me being in the farming world, the people that want to advertise in the farming space don't have a lot of money to spend on that stuff, because we're talking about seed companies and people that make greenhouses and, you know, magazines and, you know, like things like that. Like they don't have the budget for influencer marketing. So you kind of have to understand your niche. And I went almost 2 years without taking a sponsor on my channel. So I wasn't even comfortable with that until I was thinking, all right, well, I'm kind of leaving money on the table. If I can find companies that I respect and want to work with and I think are doing good in the world, then I can talk with them and you know, have them sponsor videos. So it comes with time, but you can't force it. Like if you reach out to companies too early, like they're not going to be interested. So yeah, it's one of those things that it takes time, and you'll know when the time is there. Yeah.
Okay. So it could vary really on any channel. You know, you could start making money maybe if you got 4,000 subscribers or 10 or 100,000. I have seen that smaller channels, if you compare small, right? Channels with less subscribers are making more money than channels with more subscribers.
Yes,
isn't that interesting? I have seen that.
It's very interesting. I think there's a couple things going on there. One is subscriber counts don't mean what they used to mean for a few reasons. One is it's much harder to get subscribers now than it was a few years ago because of supply and demand, right? There's, especially through COVID, I feel like everyone started a YouTube channel. So there's tons of content out there. So there's lots of supply. And now there's either equal demand or even less demand because people are spending their time watching TikTok and other things. So when you talk about supply and demand, there's way too much content, not enough people watching. So in that regard, it's hard to gain subscribers and a following as it was a lot easier a few years ago, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. So, and then the other thing is it's about your audience and the community that you build. So if people are really invested in your channel and they're watching everything you're doing, there's a lot of value there to advertise, to a certain market. Like if you see, I think there's going to be a lot more people making, middle-class wages on YouTube with much smaller channel sizes than they used to. And then you also look at larger channels with huge subscriber base, and then you look at the ratio of their views to the subscribers, it's much lower. And for a lot of that reason is that those channels have been around for a long time. So the people that have subscribed to those channels years ago either don't watch YouTube anymore or aren't interested in the topic anymore. But they just haven't unsubscribed. So there's a lot of dead subscribers out there. So that when you look in, and everyone starts comparing yourself to other channels, but when you look at the bigger channels, like look at the ratio of views per video to subscribers. Like it's going to be less than, a newer channel probably.
Right. I think that comes down to, there's a few factors, but it would be important to consider that smaller channels could have a more loyal fan base on their channel, as well as the education that they're teaching. I know for my channel personally, I'm just a few away from 5,000, but I know when I post a video that I need engagement on, which I don't do often, but when I do post that, like a giveaway, I get a significant amount of those subscribers to interact with my video because I've earned every single one of them, and I know hundreds of them on a name basis. So there's not too much disconnect on my channel. So it's profitable for me right now. And it works. So yeah, I think that's been a good thing.
I think there's a lot of truth to that too, just in terms of numbers. I mean, when you have a channel that's larger, you can't even get to everyone's comments. Like it's just not physically possible anymore. You just can't keep up with it. You can't respond to everybody and make those connections. So you start to feel more disconnected with the audience for sure.
That's true. Okay. So people have learned how to start a YouTube channel. They got the gear, they're communicating, they're picking their topics. They're now making money on YouTube, right? How do they grow it? Any growth hacks that you have?
No, there's no growth hacks, Cody. It's literally just grinding. It's staying focused. It's staying.
Yep.
You have to really want it. Like YouTube is probably one of the hardest things that you could do. It's kind of like, in some ways, it's like being like a professional athlete. You know what I mean? Like you have to really, really want it, and you have to constantly be working at it, and you're constantly performing because everything you do is visible, right? All the videos you make, everyone can see how many views and likes and all that stuff. And so you have to be constantly working at it. And if you're really focused on growth, like we talked about earlier, you really want to be thinking about using your analytics and trying to dial in your videos. And one thing that's, okay, maybe this is a hack, but this is really a strategy, is that you got to stay in your lane. And so this is something that happens very quickly on your channel. So when you start your channel and you have you're just throwing videos out there because you're like, all right, I'm going to do a channel on, I don't know, pick it, whatever topic, let's say farming. Like I'm just going to like make a bunch of videos, and then you sort of maybe put out 10, 20, 30 videos, and you see like, oh, well, these 3 videos did really well. These videos did not do well. So human psychology says, well, I want to do well, I want to perform. So what do you start doing? You start making more of those 3 videos that do well. And so what happens then is that you start making the same video over and over again to get growth, because you know that those videos do well. You keep making them. And the reason they do well is that YouTube needs to know who to push your video towards, right? They're trying to show, they're trying to keep people on the platform as long as possible so they can show them more ads so they can make more money. That's the bottom line. So if Cody makes 10 different types of videos, they don't know who to show that video to, because they'll show, like if you made a video about, I don't know, like you made a baking video next week and you post that, they're going to show that to your audience. Your audience isn't going to click on it. They don't know who to show it to because it's not in your lane. So
right.
It's not like you're fighting the algorithm. You just have to get in your lane and just play the game. Like you have to stick making those same videos over and over again. And the problem with that long term is that as a creator, you get tired of it. Like you don't want to make that same video over and over again. and you make something else, and then your channel drops, and it pulls everything down. It doesn't just pull that video down, it pulls down all the rest of the videos. And I noticed this especially almost 3 years on the platform. If I make a video that's totally different, it'll tank, and then the next bunch of videos that I make that are in my lane will also get pulled down. So,
oh man,
yeah, the longer you do it, the more data obviously that Google has on you and your videos. And I know a lot of people want to blame the algorithm for underperformance, but it's not. You have to understand how it works. It's not like
true,
you know, and always focus on just making the best video possible. That's the bottom line. Every video's got to be good as you can make it.
Yeah, I think that would be the biggest takeaway from just having like this conversation with you. And I did get 5 tips out of you. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is start YouTube with the intention on wanting to educate people on something that they are passionate about, with a purpose in mind on where you wish to go with your channel. If your goal is to start a YouTube channel just because you want to be a YouTuber, then there will be a high potential you will experience doubt and burnout along the way, because it is very difficult. You have to understand algorithms, research and development for your topics, thumbnails, posting schedules, and how to review your analytics, how to improve your analytics. That could be very daunting, man. So begin YouTube with a passion and with a purpose.
I agree with all that, and all that technical stuff that you mentioned very briefly, sort of waved your hand over in terms of titles, thumbnails, analytics, all the technical posting schedule. That is just a guessing game for most of it, right? You're kind of looking around and trying things, and some things work with your audience, some things don't. There's also the whole side of YouTube that's entertainment based, which I'm not really interested in, and like I don't partake in, but I think there's that educational component I think me and you sort of focus on. And then there's just there's just entertainment out there and those channels do really, really well too. So it's kind of like whatever you're interested in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the biggest, if you broke it down into 10 categories, gaming is number 1. So people just playing video games and filming themselves playing video games, they're the ones getting billions of views. You know, one of the biggest channels, PewDiePie. I've never watched his videos, but I know he's a gaming channel. I think
he was originally.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, gotcha. So I mean, and then there's entertainment stuff. So Mr. Beast is great at this, and he's got the challenge component, the shock factor is all added to it, which is like money and people winning something and competition. And then music is big on YouTube. The education category is like number 6 or 7.
Interesting.
You know?
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah. I like this phrase, infotainment.
Yeah.
How can you inform somebody about something in an entertaining way?
Yeah, I've heard edutainment as well. So yeah.
Oh, edge. Okay, that's a good one. I like that. Well, that's great. Thank you for taking the time to share that advice on how someone in 2022 could get started with YouTube based upon what you've learned.
Absolutely, Cody. Anytime you want to chat about this stuff, I'm loving nerding out on all this YouTube strategy, content creation stuff, and it's some of the stuff that I'm trying to incorporate as much as I can on my second channel as well. So thanks for having me on, Cody, and hopefully we can connect again soon.
Certainly. If people want to learn more about your channel, how can they find you?
I'm easy to find online. If you look up my channel, Josh Satin on YouTube, and the other channel is called Content on Content, but I think they both point to each other, so I'm pretty easy to find.
Perfect. There it is. All right. Thanks, man. We'll chat soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cody.